The story that I've decided to look at is The Midnight Zone by Lauren Grove. The three critical literary approaches I decided to use were, first off, the psychological approach, next, the social cultural theory, and third, through the eyes of gender criticism. For my psychological approach, I decided to use the interpersonal psychological theory of suicidal behavior, which was created by Thomas Joyner. This theory states that someone will not actually commit suicide unless they have the desire and ability to do so. I decided to look at a section of The Midnight Zone through this lens, to see what is motivating and going through the main character's mind. The paragraph I took from the story is when the mother is sitting in the bed trying to stay awake after hitting her head. The line reads, "Everything depended on my staying still, but my skin was stuffed with itches. Something terrible in me, the darkest thing, wanted to slam my own head back against the headboard. I imagined it over and over, the sharp backward crack, and the wash and spill of peace." She's trying to decide how to stay alive and starting to panic. When reading this line, I began to think a lot about whether or not the mother was actually considering suicide, or if she was just trying to end her pain. When looking at this part through the idea of Thomas Joyner, we see that the mother doesn't have the ability to commit suicide. She thinks through the fact that she could crack her head hard enough on the headboard. She's not thinking clearly at this point either. She recognized that there is something terrible inside of her. She's actually imagining it happening, which, if we look at the theory, shows that she has the complete ability to make this happen. On the other hand, and to the other part of the theory, the mother does not have the actual desire to do it. In this moment, she is sitting in a lot of pain, worry, and hurt, but she's just doing it with her sons in her lap. Just several paragraphs before, she says, "It was elegiac, that last hour or so of light, and I tried to push my love for my sons into them where their bodies were touching my own skin." It is not her actual desire to take herself out of the world. When looking at the mother's background, it doesn't seem like an actual plausible action. We just see her in a weak psychological state at this point in the story. The part of the story creates a theme of a mother facing darkness in a place that she least expected it, her family vacation. It also shows how she pulls through and why she is able to think about it for a second and then pull herself out of it. The next literary approach I looked at was the sociological approach. This looks at the social content of the story. What values does the story look at? How does it explain the culture of the story? I looked at several quotes, but the first was, "My husband had to leave. He just fired one handyman and the other was on his own Caribbean adventure, eating buffet food to the sound of the cruise ship Calypso." This makes a big comment about a work culture. The father has to leave a family vacation because he has to take care of a problem at work. This makes a comment on the class and culture of the family and how many families in the working class have to give up valuable family time to make ends meet and to keep their jobs. Because he is the boss of the job, he has to take care of issues like this, while his workers are getting to live it up on an island and have fun. The second quote I looked at was, "But things had been fraying in our hands, and the camp was free and silent. So I walked through the resistance of my cautious husband and my small boys, who had wanted hermit crabs and kites and wakeboards and sand for spring break. Instead, they got ancient sinkholes filled with ferns, potential death by cat." This shows economic stress. The husband and the sons wanted to spend this trip by the beach, but money would not allow them. Things were fraying makes it seem like the family needed a pick-me-up that wasn't expensive. This leads to her being hurt and the whole problem of the situation. The theme I got from this is that the economic status of a family can affect a lot more than how nice their things are. It actually leads to a large traumatic event for this family. The last approach I chose was that of gender criticism. The main character, as a woman, wife, and a mother, talks about her role in the family and how she lost and had to refine that. The first quote of this is, "I asked if he thought he'd marry an incompetent woman, which cut to the bone, because the source of our problems was that, in fact, he had. For years at a time, I was good only at the things that interested me. And since all that interested me was my work and my children, the rest of life had sort of inched away." We see that this could be the cause of the issues in the relationship. She is not competent, so she must be leaning on him to take care of a lot of things. This could be why their marriage is on the edge and they needed the vacation in the first place. The second quote is, "I would not buy clothes. I would not make dinner. I would not keep schedules. I would not make playdates. Never, ever." Motherhood meant, for me, that I would take the boys on month-long adventures to Europe, teach them to blast off rockets, to swim for glory. I taught them how to read, but they could make their own lunches. I would hug them as long as they wanted to be hugged, but that was just being human. My husband had to be the one to make up for the depths of my lack. It's exhausting living the debt that increases every day. We see the woman's insecurity as a mother and a woman. To her, she doesn't feel like she is fulfilling the stereotypical roles that women are supposed to play in the lives of their children, and feels like she still owes that to her husband, but can never fully pay it back. She wants to take her kids on adventures and just hug them when they want it. She doesn't feel the same need to cater their every need and baby them for much too long. The theme I got from this is women not feeling adequate because they don't fulfill what women are expected to feel and do. After looking at this story through the approaches of an psychological theory, the sociological theory, and through general criticism, I was able to find new themes hidden in almost every paragraph.